Hello there everybody, Spawn92 aka Nightmare, and welcome back to Rose Guns Day, Season 3. In the last episode, which is basically the first episode, we got started on Season 3, and we learned a little something about Zell that I was not prepared for. I thought she must have been getting her memories back, but it seems that she and her father seem to be held captive by the Golden Dragon Society, and I'm wanting to know if Meiju knows about this. It seems like it's been going on for some time. And... the butterfly tattoo on the back of her neck. I have this sick feeling that the Golden Dragon Society are going to be using Zell, or her rather name, Hotaru. Or, goddamn it, I might be getting Hotaru, goddamn it, I'm getting her name wrong. I'm a little bit worried, because I'm afraid that this is going to lead to some possible betrayals of some kind. I mean, they have her father. And... for what purpose, though? Because she can speak Japanese and Chinese at the same time? I'm sorry, I'm so sorry! I couldn't go against the Golden Dragon Society! Why don't you come and talk to me about it? After I've looked after you for so long. That saddens me. What a shame. Please don't kill me! There's nothing I can do! The person surrounded by tough-looking men and groveling for his life was the distribution company president who had hidden soy sauce in that storehouse. He had entrusted the financial backing of his business to Rich Bamboo, which was led by James Tomitake. In this incident, he had betrayed them. James was the most mild of Primavera's bosses. If it had been anyone else, there would surely be a smoking hole in the president's forehead by now. I think I gave him the actual Tomitake voice that I've been giving I think that's how it was. It's been a while. Boss, the Grand Boss and Consigliere have arrived. Hey there, James! You haven't killed him yet, have you? Is it my turn? That's a cruel way to start a conversation. I don't kill. I just see to it that problems never exist in the first place.
Greetings, James. My thanks for securing him so quickly.
Okay then. You there, President guy. You know who we are?
Of course I do! Everyone in the city knows Primavera's Grand Boss and Consigliere.
Oh, that's good. Looks like we don't have to exchange business cards. Now, the soy sauce we're talking about here is more than just a little seasoning. Madame Rose brought it back with her for her countrymen. You businessmen were entrusted with the job of selling it fairly to the city folk, right?
You've tarnished the names of Primavera, Madame Rose, and me. Well, I imagine even you aren't planning to go home with all your limbs. That's impossible! I have a family, forgive me, please forgive me!
That's right, grovel on your knees, boy. Of course, we did take the possibility of such a situation into account. But even so, this is truly displeasing. It seems a firm judgment will be necessary if we are to suppress those who measure the good of their countrymen against personal profit. The sin of betraying Rosa's ideals is a deep one. You must prepare yourself.
I won't do anything that can, so please forgive me. I'll never disobey Primavera again.
Well now, Richard, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll move to a different room. It's not fair to reach a decision before the defense attorney's had his say.
Defense attorney? Who defend this man?
After Cyrus shrugged, James did the same and smiled vaguely.
That boy dead.
The three of them moved into the members' room and sat down on a sofa.
So, let's hear the claim to the defense. By my judgment, this is embezzlement on a scale that we can't afford to overlook. It's hard to forgive someone knowingly making such a deal, particularly with the Golden Dragon Society.
So, that's what the prosecution says. How about the defense? James, why have you decided that there's no need to kill that guy?
I have a very simple reason. He's a big fish in the world of Japanese logistics. If we kill him, we'll have no one to replace him with.
Is there no other merchant with a good business sense who might replace him?
There's more to logistics than just transporting goods. It's about where you purchase and how you split up between the shops. All of that has to be dealt with. If we use a human being as a metaphor, logistics would be the heart. It's the driving force that circulates the blood of commodities through the entire body.
Are you saying that guy's some incredible big shot businessman who controls the realm of logistics in our City 23?
Simply put, that's more or less it. If we lose him, our countrymen running businesses on the ends of the web will suffocate. There's no doubt he's a minor villain. It's not rare for him to grab a little for himself on the side, and he does threaten those in the same business. He's a United C-23 logistics businessman through dishonorable methods. However, methods aren't the problem. What's important is that his strong arm brought the businessmen together.
And if we lose that strong arm, those businessmen will break to pieces?
If the strong arm disappears, the reaction will probably be big. I can't deny that.
When businessmen work at larger and larger scales, the quality of goods they get to deal in goes up. That's a lesson I learned well when Rose mentioned she'd be using weak Japanese businessmen to purchase supplies for that dance party.
There's no doubt he's not a man worthy of respect. However, for that reason, he was under our control, and he managed to bring merchants together in record time. Simply put, if we lose him, it'll put Japanese businessmen at a severe financial disadvantage in their business dealings. And of course, that'll eventually have an effect on the lifestyles of all our countrymen. If Primavera wants to claim that its primary goal is the protection of its countrymen's lifestyles, then we shouldn't dispose of them.
So, you think we should let the traitor go with a full acquittal?
Well, that's not gonna happen. We won't kill him, but we'll make sure he pays a heavy penalty. Right?
Please leave that to me. I'll make it very clear to him that this will never happen again. And of course, I'll use methods that even an extremely forgetful man will always remember. James spoke of a man's life as though it was a coin placed on a roulette table. Of course, his eyes were cold enough to freeze you solid, and there could be no doubt that he was a resident of the criminal underworld.
Very well. However, we are speaking only of the time until you find a replacement.
Of course. When that happens, I plan to hold a quiet retirement ceremony for him.
Oh, scary. Well, that's what you get for being a traitor. You know that won't come cheap. Still, there's no way the guy didn't know about this. He knew full well how terrifying the underworld is, and he still couldn't bring himself to refuse the Golden Dragon Society's deal. In my mind, that's the real problem.
They must have offered him something hefty to betray Primavera. As a result of their questioning, they discovered that the Golden Dragon Society had approached the president in this incident of embezzlement. Of course, if he had refused, he might have had the GDS on his tail. However, Primavera was supposed to be there to provide backing in such a situation.
He put us and the GDS on a scale, and decided it was more profitable to betray Primavera than to anger the GDS. In other words, by his measure, confidence in us is less important than GDS threats.
It's a problem that people think we can't be relied on.
The Mafia has power because people think they have enough force to be feared. However, if there isn't enough of a reason to fear them, not only would they lose respect, but no one would keep their promises with them. You hear a lot of terrifying things about the GDS. They were the cause of countless bloody incidents during the fight to dominate City 22.
And some of those even happened in City 23's Chinatown. I imagine many people here have heard of the horror of the GDS.
So if we turn it around, the next question's, what about us?
At the moment, we've rejected the tyrant Father Caleb and raised our flag as a philanthropic group dedicated to their countrymen. A mafia of justice, if you will. All of our crews understand Madame Rose's ideals and try to avoid dirty tricks that would sully her name.
I see. So, just in money lending, you're done for once they start taking you lightly.
Well, ever since that legendary night, the city's been peaceful. Where are the Momotaros of justice who vanquished the demon Caleb?
Am I talking about me?
Oh, don't worry, Caleb. Don't worry. They're just singing your praise.
Alright.
When you walk through the city, the people praise the madam, treating us like saviors who freed the city from Caleb's tyranny. By now, you've even got brats in parks swinging around toy pistols and saying they want to join Primavera.
So while they do respect us, they aren't in awe of us.
Once they start taking you lightly, you're done for.
This case proves that Primavera is merely respected, but not thought of as being reliable. For a while, the three fell silent. They had believed themselves to be throwing their lives into a just battle for Madame Rose's ideals. However, in the process, had they lost a certain sort of power needed to protect the city folk? There's no problem with having Madame Rose as a symbolic saint.
But on the other hand, there's those of us who gather around her to have to be brutal champions of weaponry, huh?
In the same way that the legendary knight united this underworld of City 23. Perhaps we need a new legendary knight to win the acknowledgement of the people.
Primavera was thought of as a charitable organization. Because of that, when the GDS showed up with the power of violence, Primavera wasn't trusted as a force that could respond to their advance. So the president in this case had quickly folded to the GDS. Man, they must have really had something on. Primavera still hadn't earned the city folks' confidence as the conquerors of the underworld. To gain that, they would have to display the power of Primavera's violence to the city folk. In other words, it meant a feud. They needed a symbol of fear to let people know that terrible things awaited those who went against Primavera. Of course, committing acts of violence against the city folk was out of the question. Rose wouldn't allow it. In that case, their only possible target was the GDS. Since the GDS had taken a shot at Primavera's turf, they would have to settle this matter with bullets.
So, a repeat of the legendary night.
This is the second time, after the backdoor employment agency. It seems we may have no choice to lay down some powerful cards against the GDS.
We can talk about doing all kinds of terrible stuff. The problem's whether we can convince Rose or not.
I imagine Rose will understand. After all, she was able to take up a gun to defeat Caleb.
So, prepare for war, huh?
Begin it. Chinatown should recognize our intent before long. That alone should prove to be a card we can use against them.
Understood. I'll order the bosses to start preparing.
Be sure that everyone knows the difference between preparing and war.
Oh, of course. But I'll make sure they're on their guards. We've got to show them that this ain't no charity we're running here.
We protect our countrymen from our position in the underworld. From the moment we made that decision, we could not have avoided this path. It'll probably take time to convince Rose, but I'm positive that she will understand eventually.
Oh, hey, I actually only had like 13 minutes. I could have gone a little bit further, and I feel bad that I didn't. No thanks, I got a ride. In Chinatown, in the middle of the night, there was a line of trucks. A massive number of wooden boxes was being lowered from several trucks, and they formed a pile in the storehouse. Ooh, music. These boxes were different from the ones used to transport the soy sauce that Rose had purchased from the Satomi Alliance.
Oh, this music.
As a crowd of workers moved back and forth, Wang laughed in front of the pile, Wong laughed in front of the pile, which now resembled a massive wall or a tsunami.
Now this is the best part. Truly like the night before a big Kyosho landing raid.
Are you talking about the wild beast strategy?
Japan should be grateful for the disaster. Without that, at least Kyushu and everything south of it would be Chinese territory by now.
Wong looked at the pile of boxes as though it was a pile of weapons and gunpowder. It was a valid metaphor. After all, those boxes were certainly filled with shells that would be fired during the coming war with Primavera.
Honored brother, preparations are proceeding according to your orders. Hey there, little May. Very good, very good. As you can see, we're at the best part. This is what it means to attack.
Still, I'm surprised you managed to scrounge up this much.
I can gather as much as I want and make as much as I want. Isn't that the greatest weapon we Chinese have?
So, this is the way of war in the new era. By the way, honored brother, I hear that logistics businessman was captured by Primavera.
Oh, that was faster than expected, huh? And I'd promised to introduce him to a place with some lovely girls. So, was he floating? I doubt he'd sink. They need to make an example.
The Primavera I know wouldn't kill him. Though, they might give him a good scolding.
Oh, look at what I've done! I'll have to show him a good time one of these days to make up for it.
However, will this plan of yours really go well?
Hey, what's wrong, little May? Are you really so uneasy about my plan?
No, that wasn't my meaning. For a thick-headed, violent person like myself, your wise, new world warfare seems to be hard to grasp.
Oh ho ho! It is rare for you to say something like that. And I thought someone as wise as you would be just a person to understand my plan.
I fear my knowledge is still no match for yours, honored brother.
Meiju bowed deeply when he said this, but his gaze was sharp and challenging. So, like, is he actually working with him willingly? The way the season 2 ended, though, kind of gives me the idea that he's not too into the idea of working with this guy. I don't know. It was as though he was saying he'd wait and see just how well this plan of Wong's turned out. Wong noticed the second meaning. Before Wong had been given the post, Meiju had served the role of guarding to the south gate, with splendid plotting despite his young age. Wong didn't think him the sort of man to wag his tail for someone just because they had experience.
Well, just you watch. I'm sure you'll be surprised.
It will be a pleasure to see your talents at work.
Since he was bowing his head, Meiju's eyes couldn't possibly be looking at Wong. However, both of them were exchanging a challenging gaze without looking at the other. Wong walked away with his subordinates following. After waiting for their backs to disappear from sight, Meiju slowly raised his head.
If one thing is certain, it's that someone will be surprised, honored brother. Let us hope that Primavera is the one.
Damn that Wong Yang Hong. Taking control and leaving you out of it, boss. It's obvious he'll take credit if it works well against Primavera, but he'll put all the blame on you if it fails.
Let's wait and see if his plan goes well, that part included.
Even if you're a villain, you're still like one of my favorites. Kind of like Miguel and Caleb.
If the plan Wong laid out goes smoothly, it's possible your life will be in danger eventually.
True. He is an assassin sent against me. As you say, if it goes well, my honored brother will get the credit, and City 23's Chinatown will belong to him. And even if it does fail, it'll provide an excellent excuse to have me purged. No matter what happens, the Council of Elders will gain control of City 23's Chinatown.
Shouldn't we leak information to Madame Rose? I think the ideal situation for us would be a state where Wong neither wins nor loses against Primavera.
Meiju's underlings hesitated, unsure what he was laughing at. After laughing for a while, Meiju spoke, still gazing out the car window.
All of you, and Wong too, you understand nothing about Primavera. No, about Madame Rose. Even if we don't stick our necks in, it won't go as my honored brother expects.
You say so, boss.
If Meiju, their boss, was purged, they would be put in a much worse situation. They'd probably be absorbed by an organization outside the GDS, with their career wiped to a blank slate and the treatment they received plummeting as a result. Their fates were tied to Meiju. They couldn't hide their unease at having Wong take control, but they were forced to believe in the unwavering confidence of their boss.
come to think of it, how is Hatorubi doing?
Okay, so he did know. Today was the day she visited her dad. She didn't come last month, but she came this month. Xiaolon was sitting next to Meiju. This whole time she had been sitting backwards, looking out for suspicious cars that might be following them. No one had ordered her to do that. As a girl who had survived in the alleys, she was more cautious than a stray cat. Ever since she started thinking of Meiju as a father and a brother, she had grown even more cautious, determined that nothing should harm him.
Hotarubi, is it? A pitiable girl. How outrageous that the Council of Elders would spend money on such a disreputable product.
Xiaolon moved her mouth as though talking quickly, but no sound came out. However, Meiju could instantly tell what she was saying by the movements of her lips. As a person who could read lips, Meiju was capable of communicating with Xiaolon more easily than anyone else.
That's magnificent work. So, it would seem she was worth the high price.
According to Xiaolon, Hotarubi had succeeded in achieving repeated success within Primavera, earning the trust of several essential figures within it. She had even succeeded in forming personal relationships with Madame Rose, Richard, and Wayne. By Xiaolon's judgment, she might even be recommended to join Madame Rose's personal guard before too long.
Just what the Council of Elders expected from her. Very impressive. Has Hotarubi been given any other missions, besides approaching Primavera's inner circle?
Oh no. The amnesia was an act. For now, no.
Continue to observe Hotarubi for a while longer. However, if she's ordered to assassinate Madame Rose, let me know beforehand.
Why? Very well. Xiaolon wordlessly nodded her head. She felt sorry for Hotarubi. However, as a person who had lived alone in the alleys, she thought Zell still had it better off to have a living father, even in such sad circumstances. That didn't mean Zell's grief-stricken sobs failed to tear Xiaolon's heart apart, though. So that's... Oh, here we go. Hotarubi had been purchased by the Council of Elders from a different organization. She was a Japanese assassin, fluent in Chinese. She's an assassin?! This girl, who possessed both youth and beauty, appeared to be as fragile as her real name, Hotaru, which means firefly, implied. However, rumor told of the missions that she had accomplished for countless organizations, and she was somewhat well known in the underworld of Tokyo's Chinatown. Oh, she's got a gun! Her greatest weapon was the fact that she was Japanese. Though the Chinese and Americans were in control, there was still a considerable number of Japanese people living in Tokyo. American organizations usually didn't exist in Chinese-run districts. In nearly all cases, their business rivals were Japanese groups. There had been many cases of these groups gaining too much power to ignore, like Primavera, and becoming a roadblock to Chinese businesses. Hotaru was an exceptionally skilled assassin, capable of blending in with those groups and using both the weapons of women and weapons of death at once. Shit! At first, she had been sold to underworld bosses as a lovely pet. To them, having a more attractive woman as a mistress was a trophy, a status symbol. Even among that group, she had apparently been traded at a very high price. After all, she would bear anything, obey anything, in exchange for her father's safety. A woman that valuable was just perfect for a gift between bosses. She changed owners at an astounding rate, as she was used as a sign of friendship or a peace offering between underworld bosses. Fuck! However, a certain Chinatown started using her as an assassin. Even the strongest of men let their guards down in front of women. They're particularly helpless when in bed. Hotaru looked as though she wouldn't hurt a fly. This girl, who had been traded as the ultimate lady of the evening, had the makings of the ultimate assassin. Did somebody say ultimate assassin? She would do anything to ensure her father's safety. This girl, whose body was even owned by others by now, didn't even hesitate to dirty her hands with blood. The safety of her father, her last living relative, was guaranteed, and the two of them were given a meal alone once a month. In exchange for nothing more than that, she became an assassin. When the Council of Elders bought Hotarubi, Meiju had been extremely wary. After all, he had suspected that she might be used against his own faction, which supported the GDS's previous leader. Because of that, he had sent Xiaolon to keep an eye on her. Later on, when he learned that she was being used to approach Primavera's inner circle, he had breathed a temporary sigh of relief. However, that didn't eliminate the possibility that she was a joker in their hand, capable of eliminating Meiju's connection with Rose, who was a powerful card in his own hand. Since Zell belonged to the Council of Elders, Wong was probably one of those holding her leash. In the war Wong planned to wage against Primavera, if Rose ever got in the way, there was a high likelihood that Wong would order her assassination.
Interesting. I wonder what ideal move we can construct from this card.
Fuck. Cool rain chilled the city, which had been made hot with the soot and smoke from cars and factories. The soft sound of rainfall enveloped the nighttime city with silence. There were only a few people hurrying home now. There probably weren't many who'd want to drink and party on a night like this. Even downtown was as quiet as a funeral, and the glowing neon signs seemed lonely somehow. Zell had finally returned to the music shop. Then a voice called to her from behind her back. It was Charles.
Zell! What are you doing walking around this room without an umbrella? Charles? Where have you been out this late without even leaving a note? We've all been searching for you, worried about you. God, enough of that for now. Let's get inside, quickly. Nina, bring her a towel, fast. We were so worried about you. Oh, look, you're freezing. Oh, Oliver! Zell's back.
Apparently Oliver had also been searching around. When Charles yelled out the front door, he came clambering in. Zell! Sheesh, you had us so worried. We thought something might have happened to you.
You don't look right. Did something happen? Sorry for making you worry. My errand dragged on a bit. Sorry. Zell.
Oliver and the others continued to stare at Zell with anxious, dubious gazes. After all, she was obviously not telling the truth. No amount of rain could hide those cheeks, red and swollen with tears.
Well, I don't know what happened. But if there's anything we can do to help, feel free to let us know. Okay. Thanks. No matter what happens, we'll always stick by your side, Zell. If you're worried about something, talk to us about it whenever you like. We'll definitely be able to support you.
Zell, are we so unreliable? We four are the wandering dogs. No matter what happens, we'll never abandon one of our comrades. What happened? Tell us about it. Oliver and the others had realized that Zell was in some sort of tough situation. They wanted to support her from the bottom of their hearts. However, Zell couldn't accept those feelings of theirs. After all, she had come here as an enemy of Primavera.
I'm really sorry. Please, everyone, there's no need for you to worry. I'm really glad you all feel that way. Thanks. I'll definitely be back to normal starting tomorrow. So, when tomorrow comes, forget the miserable expression I wore tonight. Please?
Zell.
I'm going to go dry my hair. You all get some sleep. Thanks for staying up so late looking for me.
Zell disappeared into the bag. The other three just stood there, looking worried.
I wonder. Maybe Zell's memory came back. I was thinking the same thing.
And yet, she still came back to us.
Yeah. Even though her memory came back, she still came back to us.
We're comrades. I won't let anything slide if it makes one of my comrades cry.
I feel the same. But Zell won't talk to us.
Is it because we aren't reliable enough? Is that why she won't talk to us?
I'm sure she thinks that talking about it won't accomplish anything. That girl's been living her life with a heavy burden, hasn't she? You guys know why Zell grows her hair so long?
Huh?
I guess she's probably trying to hide that.
What do you mean that?
Earlier, when Zell was being measured at the clothes shop, I saw it. Zell wouldn't ever choose to get such a creepy tattoo.
In the shower room, Zell was drying her long hair. Though it was normally so beautiful and elegant, it was now drenched and looked sad. She gathered it in front of her and covered it with a towel. On the exposed nape of her neck was a small butterfly-themed tattoo. However, it wasn't the sort of cute image a butterfly brings to mind. It was an eerie mark, with human eyes drawn on the butterfly wings that made the viewer's instinctive fear of bugs send chills down their spine. Of course, it was in a place where Zell couldn't see. However, even without seeing it, she could tell its shape just by tracing her finger across it. She couldn't forget the pain of the needle, even if she wanted to. That tattoo was something a certain organization's boss used as his personal crest. He'd built a harem out of beautiful women he'd obtained as spoils of war, and had satisfied his petty desire to monopolize by giving them this tattoo. Originally, those butterflies were to be engraved all over Zell's back. Ugh! However, a feud had broken out after only the first butterfly had been added. That boss was riddled with more bullets than the number of butterflies he had ever tattooed on his women, and left hanging on a crane. Because her master had died and her owner had changed, she was able to escape with only a single tattoo. Even now, when she thought about it, the pain of that repeatedly stabbing needle came back to her. It stung and ached. It wasn't just the pain of the needle. The kind consideration shown by all the wandering dogs tormented her like a needle.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm not really one of your comrades. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Hooray! Happy moment. I'll take a big serving, miss. So delicious, I could eat this all day. Yep, can't be Japanese without this taste.
Really, real soy sauce really does taste and smell completely different, doesn't it? All our customers are overjoyed. If it were just a bit cheaper, there'd be nothing to complain about.
Yeah, with everyone poor now after the war, it's pretty tough to have the price be double what it was.
Our apologies on that matter. However, we've been promised that the price will be revised bit by bit going forward. I hear that news of the soy sauce fever has reached the ears of the workers in Chiba. Sounds like they're all rejoicing. I've heard that some people are starting to come out in favor of moving from a small-scale luxury output into mass production, with lower profits but far more sales. It's incredible, Rose. We might really be able to get our soy sauce back.
Hooray for soy sauce! I've never had it though. Never know when we'll run out of soy sauce again. Better eat while we still can. If you're Japanese, you just gotta have soy sauce. The taste, the smell. Can't up my horsepower without this stuff.
Hey, why don't you write up about it up on our say? You won't fight about it. You realize how long I've been waiting here.
Hey, don't push. You'll be sorry if you make me spill my soup.
Well, there's plenty of soy sauce left. Please don't fight and enjoy a friendly meal. I'm sorry, everyone, but soy sauce stocks around here are going to get bigger and bigger going forward. And the more soy sauce you all buy, the more will get distributed. I ask that you all help support soy sauce. We're counting on you.
Hey, is that Madame Rose?
It's Madame Rose. Oh!
Since she had few guards with her and it was dinner time, no one had realized she was there. However, once the first person spotted her, it was a whole different story. Men across the restaurant excitedly rose to their feet. It was like a popular rock star had been sitting among them. Hey! Woo!
Madam Rose, our goddess! Banzai! Banzai! The savior who raised our wages! Thanks for getting our soy sauce back. Please do miso and mirin next.
The hell's mirin?
Rice and mug cheese. I want to eat udon and soba too. Don't you dare come anywhere near me. And the price is too high. If you don't get it a bit cheaper, I won't be able to eat it every day.
I'm really sorry about the price, but I'll do all I can to make it cheaper. The more you use, I'll use soy sauce like you're doing now, the cheaper we'll be able to get it. Let's all protect our food culture together.
When Rose finished boldly saying her piece, the restaurant was filled with applause and whistles. When the excited customers rushed forwards towards Rose, trying to shake her hand, they got into a pushing match with her guards.
Madam, your car's arrived.
Oh, it's time for Rose to go to work. Everyone, please give her room to move. Holy fuck, there's too many.
After somehow managing to split the excited crowd, Rose's group left. All the people forgot about eating and sent Rose off with 3 cheers. Outside, a line of luxury cars was already waiting for them.
We're rooting for you, Rose. Sorry to barge in on you like that today. Was it a burden? Not at all. I'd like to drop by whenever you feel like it. We'll welcome you with open arms. As for the soy sauce, I'm counting on you. Whether you get distribution up or not depends on the consumers. Of course. I'll help out, so please make it cheaper and cheaper.
This way, madam.
Hi then, Claudia. Thanks so much, everyone.
Madam Rose! Banzai! Banzai! Banzai!
Even after Rose got into the car and closed the door, the cheering continued. The car started up and Rose continued to wave at them until it disappeared from the car window.
Holy fuck, that was a lot of them.
Were you able to get a good sense of the public's attitude?
Yeah, I could feel how food culture equals a people's confidence.
When the Americans and Chinese scattered food from their countries around for free, it was nothing more or less than an assault on our food culture. Damn Americans! When food culture is lost, a people loses a big part of their identity. To be honest, I used to think that this soy sauce business was foolish, but...
Have you been convinced?
Indeed. A man's narrow field of vision couldn't even conceive of such a thing. The support of the city folk makes for a powerful tailwind. I must apologize for doubting you.
They say that women have to grab 3 bags, right? With wage increases, we grab them by the bag of their wallets. With soy sauce, we grab them by the bag of their stomachs.
And the 3rd bag was Primavera's greatest specialty, was it not?
Rose is in high spirits. After hearing the passionate voices of the city folk, she could probably feel a favorable wind at her back. However, if they didn't show the townspeople another legendary night, Primavera would be treated like a mere charitable organization. Because of that, some people would fear the GDS and crack easily. They had to make it clear that Primavera was a violent organization, no stronger or weaker than the GDS. It would only be possible to carry out Rose's ideals if they preserved their position as conquerors of the underworld, earning both fear and respect. Just once, for the time being, they needed to convince the city folk that Primavera was a massive, violent organization. Richard had been worrying over the right timing to discuss this with Rose. However, perhaps today's talk would be a perfect opportunity.
Still, I'm glad Meiju-san's safe.
Though I am a bit worried about this person he supposedly wants to introduce us to.
After being completely unable to contact Lee Meiju, he had suddenly contacted them. Judging by his behavior during the feud with Caleb, Meiju tended to break contact when it was inconvenient for him. Since word had suddenly come from him, it probably meant that, while it was sudden for Primavera, Meiju's side had just finished preparing for something.
What on earth could it be? I wonder if a high-ranking member of City 22's GDS is going to negotiate for the special offers window.
I see. A reasonable supposition.
For a deal regarding the special offers window, a considerable supply of money would have to change hands. True enough, it wouldn't be strange for someone even bigger than Meiju to come from City 22, the main base of the GDS, but the GDS have been behind the recent embezzlement case. If they decided to enter negotiations for the special offers windows, they would have sent orders to C-23 telling their men to refrain from such actions.
In any event, we had better not let our guards down.
Meiju, what are you up to?
Nice music. I like it.
They had been invited to an expensive restaurant in City 22's Pleasure District. City 22 was run by the Chinese military. The whole city was a massive Chinatown. Small Rock Chinatown in City 23 felt like nothing more than a Chinese town in Japan, but this was a whole different story. Though they'd only crossed between cities, this was clearly a foreign country, China itself. The restaurant was in a dazzling building that looked like a Chinese-themed fashion mall. Oh my god! There was a red carpet laid out in front of the entrance, and there stood a line for GDS guards, Meiju, and a man who seemed to be an executive slightly older than middle-aged.
You're old.
When Rose and Richard got out of the car, the men held out a hand with a big smile. They immediately understood that this was today's key person.
Wow, such a lovely lady! How cruel, little May, not to introduce me to such a beautiful woman!
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Rose Hayabara.
And I'm Wang Yang Hong. It's such an honor to meet you, Madame Rose. I hear you've been taking good care of our little May. You have my thanks. Thank you for everything.
Your Japanese is excellent. I must say I'm impressed.
My honored brother is quite a hard worker. He's mastered several languages in addition to Japanese.
After all, the number of languages you speak becomes your business power. English and Chinese are a given, but you must also learn the language of many other countries.
My apologies for not studying Chinese harder.
Oh, that's just fine. The Chinese language is a profound one, after all. But I'm sure one as clever as you could master it in no time. Right, little May?
After all, my honored brother is extremely talented when it comes to teaching things to young ladies.
Ah, this guy. I'm gonna fucking kill you if you spill the beans, you know.
What the... Did you hear that?
I kind of heard that. Did you hear that?
Oh, I most certainly heard that.
Allow me to introduce this man. This is Richard Maogi-kun, who serves as my advisor.
Look, I can't fucking understand what you're saying. Hello there, Mr. Wong. How are you today?
Holy shit, you could actually speak Chinese! Well, that's an honorable surprise, I must say, Mr. Richard.
His flippant attitude made him seem like a mere energetic lecher. However, Richard already knew that this was the man who had caused the massive soy sauce embezzlement incident by buying off the distributors. His caution might have shown in his eyes. Wong offered to shake Richard's hand with an entirely different warmth than what he had shown Rose.
A pleasure. I've heard rumors that you're Madame Rose's famous counselor.
The pleasure is mine. It was an honor to hear that you were the superior of Meiju-san, a man I respect.
The two crossing gazes were razor sharp.
Meiju, why do they look like they're about to kill each other?
Oh, because they're about to kill each other, possibly. I do recommend that you get out of the splashdown.
A what?
Both seemed certain that the other was the other side's key person. Richard was convinced that this man was a cunning tactician. Wong was convinced that Rose was a symbolic leader, while with Richard being the practical leader.
Well then, please come in, Madame Rose. This shop is my castle, which I'm quite proud of. I'm so glad I got to invite you here.
Okay.
Holy shit, look at that!
After taking Rose's hand, Wong led everyone inside the majestic double doors. In the entrance, which was decorated in a distinctively Chinese manner, there were several gorgeously ornamented clocks on display. It left an impression far greater than one would expect from the entrance to a restaurant, feeling more like a small but dignified museum. Damn. I kind of like how everything looks here, not gonna lie.
Amazing. Is this your collection, Wong-san?
Well, I love clocks. For some reason, that distinctive sound ticking the seconds away has always held my heart captive.
I can understand it.
An intriguing hobby. Not only are all these gorgeous, but their splendid rarities overflowing with history.
The ticking of time has no relation to one's rank. It ticks the same for nobles and commoners.
If you put it that way, clocks are proof that all people are equal.
And that is something I find somewhat frustrating.
Frustrating?
Regardless of whether one studies hard and works hard, or does nothing and is satisfied with laziness, time passes the same for us all, does it not? I'm not satisfied with that. When someone works hard and achieves something great, shouldn't they be given more time? How ignorant God must be to not understand the difference between lazy fools and hard workers, and to hand out time to everyone with inflexible rules. So, my hobby of collecting clocks is a minor act of rebellion against God. A man like me, who has worked twice as hard as the average person, should have the right to buy time with the money he saved up as a result of his efforts. You see.
Okay, this guy is kind of weird.
I tried to warn you about this man, honestly. If money could buy time. A romantic notion.
Honored brother, if you don't put your love of clocks aside for a bit, you won't be able to show off your favorite device. Oh no, that's no good at all! Ah, look at the time!
Actually, that's kind of easy considering how many clocks are around here. Just take a look left, right, up, down, and what do we know? I already know what time it is. It's 12 past 9.
That's enough talk of clocks for now. Please come inside.
Wong looked at a clock, then led the group into the main hall. The clock was just about to show 7. Aw, man, I was off by like 2 hours. Fuck! The massive well-hole-style entrance hall was decorated with elegant ornaments and lit with a refined dim glow. A grand piano for live performances made the room look even fancier. This was a high-class restaurant, available only to special members that were acknowledged as ladies and gentlemen. While the small number of guests wore expensive suits and had the feel of executives about them. This was Wong's prized restaurant and also his castle. He guided them to a table that had been prepared for Rose's group, but for some reason he didn't invite them to sit down. He beckoned with a mischievous smile.
What is it?
Wong stood in front of an extravagantly decorated cabinet with 2 doors opening from the center. It had a large, ostentatious keyhole in the middle, but it didn't look like a safe. It felt more like a treasure box to hold a prized possession.
As you can see, this is one of my treasure boxes. It holds alcohol from across the world, the sort just perfect for dinner on a splendid day.
And is that the key to this alcohol treasure box?
Oh my! From his pocket, Wong pulled a key wrapped in silk cloth. It was a gold key with a luxurious design, fitting for a key to a treasure box. Indeed. He handed the key to Rose with a wink.
Why don't you try opening it? Use the key.
Are you sure?
Rose took the key and nervously put it in the keyhole. However, no matter which way she turned it, it didn't budge. She couldn't imagine that it was the wrong key, and she couldn't imagine that there was any other way to open it. With a puzzled expression, Rose gave up and shrugged. At that moment, a loud sound. No, music. No. Surely this was musical performance of a clock. Oh? The clock on display throughout the restaurant pointed their hour and minute hands straight up and began playing music to announce the hour. Several sounds and bits of music mixed together, so you couldn't pick out any single one, but it was impressive in a way that was hard to describe.
Rose-san, try using the key once more.
Huh? Again?
Quickly now, before the clocks finish their chorus!
Confused, Rose put the key in the keyhole one more time and turned it. As she did, it spun with unbelievable ease, and she felt a light resistance as the lock was unlocked.
It's unlocked.
Oh, now this is odd.
Interesting, isn't it? It's my honored brother's favorite device. It's my belief that the contents of a treasure box shine more the harder it is to open. But on the other hand, if it's really difficult to open, there's no point!
I see. So there's a limit on the times during which it can be opened?
Oh, so you can only open it while the clocks are chiming?
Well spotted. In other words, even I, the person holding the key, cannot open it when I want to unless it's the right time. I think this is probably the same spark that makes the girls at Club Primavera shine so brightly.
You can't see them all the time. The frustration of not being able to see them when you want to.
Ah, yes. Man is a lewd animal. If they could see those women all the time, they would lose their charm.
The thought of lovers only being able to meet in secret for a limited time. Sounds romantic.
Okay, that's enough showing off my devices. Now let's move to showing off the important thing. What's inside? Come now, Madame Rose. From which bottle shall we partake? My first service to my guests is always to let them choose.
Behind the open doors were choice liquors from around the world. When Rose showed interest in one, Wong would happily relate deep stories involving that bottle. This continued until Rose finished selecting bottles and tasting them.
To continue ties of friendship between the Golden Dragon Society and Primavera.
To our prosperity and expansion.
Cheers.
They all clinked their glasses together and were welcomed by applauding waiters and a piano performance. Then, amidst a peaceful atmosphere, the curtain rose on Primavera's meal of the Golden Dragon Society.
I hear Madame Rose is quite passionate about soy sauce circulation these days.
The tradition of Japanese-style soy sauce started with Hishio in China in the 5th century by the Western calendar. It was later developed into a uniquely Japanese product. Even the drops of the Japanese soul can be traced back to Chinese culture. A Japanese-style soy sauce and Chinese-style soy sauce ought to be on good terms.
Our chefs have exercised their talents today, using the roots of Japanese soy sauce as a theme. I hope that you enjoy it.
When Meiju clapped his hands, beautiful women in lovely china dresses brought the food out. This wasn't Meiju's style. It's probably a safe bet that Wong was behind this presentation. Captivated by the girls' butts, Wong rose his glass happily, because of course.
To Chinese-Japanese friendship. China and Japan are brothers after all. We ought to get along. The Chinese certainly don't despise the Japanese anymore. The Second Sino-Japanese War was nothing more than a fight between brothers. On the contrary, the Chinese army came here to protect the Japanese islands from the Americans, as I have a minor stroke who despise Asians.
I think we can both prosper while respecting each other's culture.
Indeed we can! China's a broad-minded country. We're the only large country who gave profit to neighboring nations, even to the point of starving ourselves as long as they paid us respect.
Are you referring to Imperial Chinese tribute?
In Japan, they also called it envoy to the Sui and envoy to the Tang.
Old China received tribute from the neighboring countries. The word tribute brings to mind the vision of a large country striking fear into the smaller surrounding countries and forcing them to pay tribute. However, the successive Chinese emperors who received tribute displayed their majesty and virtue by giving gifts even more reliable than what they had received. In other words, with this tribute system, there were fewer things given as tribute than there were rewards given in return. So ancient Japan wanted to abide by this tribute so much that they loaded up as much tribute as they could muster and crossed the rough sea of Japan at all costs. Japan, which wanted to learn culture from a major cultural powerhouse, this was a very valuable opportunity. On the receiving side, the Chinese always gave back more than they were offered, and the financial burden was no minor matter. However, they were so determined not to refuse the respect for China that was being shown them that they returned more than they were given, even if it hurt them. That burden ended up being considerable. And later on, even though China was the one receiving tribute, they actually restricted it themselves in a strange turn of affairs. That tribute can be viewed as one example of the Chinese historically choosing name over substance. However, the Japanese were the exact opposite, choosing substance over name. Old Japanese history books refer to this tribute as trade. They never wrote that messengers to the Sui and Tang dynasties displayed respect for Chinese emperors and paid tribute. There are even some history books left with which right that the Japanese sold off those gifts, which were a result of the Emperor choosing name over substance, right on the spot. They say the Japanese used that money to buy up advanced techniques and culture before returning home with full ships. They took treasures that were given to them in exchange for respect and sold them off for practical uses. That was Japanese-style trade, choosing substance over name. The ancient Japanese treated this as a fair deal made with the Chinese dynasty, and wrote that the Chinese emperor had acknowledged them as equals. This didn't amuse the Chinese, who had abandoned substance for name. China had given those gifts in exchange for respect, but the Japanese were claiming that this was a deal agreed to by two equal parties. The countless differences between Chinese and Japanese understandings of history go all the way back to the era of Himiko, when tribute was taking place. As a side note, at this time, the GHQ was compiling material for Japanese history textbooks, intending to correct them.
Our people take respect very seriously. Madame Rose shows a lot of respect for the GDS.
Of course, I always look up to you as another organization working to protect its countrymen. I'm sure we can coexist as good neighbors.
Oh, huh?
Oh, she's fucking kidding, isn't she? Ay, ay, ay.
Huh?
Oh, come now. She's just innocent. She's just doing her best. Come on.
Oh, whoops. How rude of me. I forgot you spoke Chinese, Richard Kun.
Did you really think you'd be able to slip that by me?
That was just a joke. A slip of the tongue. Forgive me, forgive me.
What did he say?
I think it's probably best you don't know.
What they actually said was unclear, but going by appearances, Wong had probably said something sarcastic and Richard heard it. Wong seemed to be affable, but of course that probably wasn't all there was to it. After a brief, uncomfortable silence, this farce of a meal ended and they finally moved on to the main topic. Oh boy.
I invited you here today for a clear reason. I wanted to confirm the ties of friendship between the GDS and Primavera. I ask that you remember the war from 1 year ago. When you rose up against Father Caleb, I believe the GDS gave you support for free.
We're deeply grateful for that.
Ever since then, we have believed that the GDS and Primavera were in a friendly relationship. However, recently, there's been a lot of trouble due to that Japanese labor union.
I believe we offered you the chance to adjust the situation beforehand. Unfortunately, our aims were not understood and we were forced into an undesirable resolution.
You mean Little Song? Well, there was a little misunderstanding about that case.
Misunderstanding?
We proposed joint management of public order around the employment agency, a proposal which you refused repeatedly. As a result, there are repeated cases of Chinese men having jobs forcibly stolen from them by violent Japanese men in front of the employment agency.
That's the first I've heard of this.
Please don't play dumb. So, after being roughed up by the Japanese, they came crying to Little Song. Little Song's a nice guy. He's the sort who couldn't bear to leave them to suffer.
The backdoor employment agency incident happened because Primavera refused to allow joint management around the employment agency. That was Wong's claim.
Anyway, we've continued to suffer greatly because of you. The Council of Elders is even proposing ridiculous things like saying we should declare war on Primavera to break out of this situation. I think that's nonsense.
Also, that's a new expression.
There's nothing to gain from fighting Primavera.
We agree with that. We have nothing to gain from fighting the Golden Dragon Society.
Still, you're the ones actually attacking us, aren't you?
It's not like we ever intended to.
We've suffered greatly because of your influence. The laborers are clamoring for the same wages as Primavera, and City 22's turning to Swiss cheese from their uproar. All over the place, we have labor boycotts, sabotage, demonstrations, violence, and theft taking place. The financial loss caused by that has been immense.
It was quiet in City 23, the eye of the storm, so Primavera probably found this hard to imagine. However, massive disturbances were being stirred up in the surrounding cities. Since Primavera had planned to head with the GHQ and gain their protection, hardly any of this was reported on, but riots were breaking out all over the place. However, those riots had started when laborers noticed the thievery by the special offers windows holders and raised their voices in anger. Primavera felt it could question why they should be held responsible for those riots, but
To the GDS, which is responsible for maintaining public order in City 22, there could be no greater breach of trust. If trust in us wavers, the hearts of the people will be thrown into chaos. Several incidents caused by this have already been reported to us. This is all your responsibility. We'll be forced to demand compensation for this loss.
Oh, so you claim to bear no responsibility for this at all?
Nope. The responsibilities are yours. And now it's the GDS's duty to protect Chinatown's peace from Primavera's attack. At this rate, there'll be war! A war that neither side wants will break out! What a tragedy!
Wong displayed his grief as though he was acting in an opera or something. It was hard to tell how much of what this man said was serious and how much was a joke.
What I want to make absolutely clear is that my honored brother didn't come here as a messenger bearing a declaration of war. He's only here as a messenger of peace.
Ah, that's right! I came as a hero of peace to make friendship between Chinese and Japanese a reality. At this rate, there will be war. But in times like this, as the Japanese saying goes, rain strengthens the ground. To avoid war on both sides, we should display our friendship and get along. At least, that's my theory.
I'm all for that. We realize that the wage differential is putting a lot of pressure on the GDS. That's why we discussed a deal for the special offers windows with Meiju-san.
Oh, you mean that Chinese labor union you proposed?
If you establish a union for your countrymen and raise their wages, I believe the issue will be resolved.
That's certainly true for City 23's Chinatown. But that won't save City 22's Chinatown. If Chinese people from City 22 rush into City 23's Chinatown looking for jobs, we'll just get a repeat of the old employment agency problem. In other words, with this Chinese labor union you do propose, only some of the Chinese will be saved, and in the end, everyone will grow more dissatisfied. You sure this isn't a trap to create unrest in Chinatown? You'll see, we might suspect something of the sort.
That's not why we proposed it.
Primavera had been negotiating with Meiju as the leader of City 23's Chinatown. However, from the GDS's perspective, both City 22's and City 23's Chinatowns were their turf. They couldn't possibly afford to treat their countrymen in City 23 well, while forcing low wages on their countrymen in City 22. In the past, when Meiju had shown interest in a deal for Primavera's special offers windows, he had been aware that it would create a wage difference between City 22 and 23. However, he had assumed that improving City 23 wages would create pressure to raise wages in City 22 as well. Thinking of this as a card used against the Council of Elders, who controlled the City 22 special offers windows, he had maneuvered behind the scenes with the young lord, but the Council of Elders made the first move and sent Wang in. Fuck!
The Japanese labor union is saving all the Japanese and Primavera's turf. However, the Chinese labor union you propose couldn't save all the Chinese and the Golden Dragon Society's turf. See? It's unfair, isn't it, right? How strange, how strange. It's not fair.
He was a very difficult man for Rose to deal with. Even though this is supposed to be a serious contest, he made it seem like he was a flippant drunk playing around. Good summary. Richard, intent on not getting sucked into this opponent's ring, spoke a bit more sharply than before.
Forgive me, but I believe we're straying slightly from the point.
Oh, you think so? I sure wish you'd point out what you mean.
We have done nothing but obtain the City 23 special offers windows, and, within the scope of that privilege, return those profits to our countrymen. However, out of a concern that this would affect the Chinese living in the same city, we have made this proposal. The topic of this discussion is the City 23 special offers windows. We are in no position to comment on the City 22 special offers windows. We do this out of respect for those who hold the City 22 special offers windows.
Richard-kun?
Oh, forgive my rudeness.
To be frank,
I believe the special offers windows are something that ought not exist in the first place. They do nothing more than swindle money for wages that should have gone to laborers. But on the other hand, we can't ignore the fact that they've supplied large amounts of funds which were used to stabilize organizations for the protection of one's countrymen. With that money, the GDS gained power, and if its work has served to repay all its countrymen, then I can't easily claim that the special offers windows are evil. However, at the moment, both we and the GDS have firmly solidified our bases. Don't you think it's about time for the special offers windows to finish serving their purpose?
Isn't that just Primavera's opinion? Oh, you're free to follow that ideal when it's within the scope of the special offers windows you hold. But such brazen interventionism to try and force those views on the GDS as well. You realize it's fair game to interpret it as an attack, don't you? Anyway, no matter what Primavera's intent may be, your policy of high wages is in effect an attack against the GDS. If you intend to continue on this path after having this explained to you, the GDS will be forced to read this as you waging economic war on us.
Rose-san, an attack isn't determined by the one initiating it. It begins from the claims of the one receiving it. I'm fully aware that you are a lady worthy of respect with a beautiful heart. However, regardless of what your intentions are, there are some things that people will interpret as attacks. I ask that you remember this.
Yep, I think it's just a little May said. There was no malice on Primavera's side. They were just all for innocently improving the lives of their countrymen. After looking into Madame Rosa's eyes, I'm sure of it. Primavera has no intention of waging war.
Wong, whose words have been sharply critical until now, suddenly switched to a warm expression. Rose and Richard couldn't help but be bewildered by the sudden change in temperature.
Madame Rose really was a benevolent person. Those short-tempered elderly council just had a slight misunderstanding. You're a splendid lady and a splendid new leader who can guide the Japanese into the future.
Wong rose to his feet and began to speak with even more dramatic gestures. He was like an opera singer speaking eloquently on the stage. Then he walked up to Rose and suddenly grabbed her hand as though inviting her to dance.
I believe we can solve this misunderstanding and make up. For that cause, let's walk together. Like this, hand in hand.
Yes, I think that sounds wonderful.
When people walk together, it means they care about and respect each other. If we let them see us walking together, then I'm sure even the Council of Elders will become Primavera's allies in a flash.
And how will we show them that we're walking together?
Wong stopped, and still holding Rosa's hand, kneeled as though proposing to her.
First, the GDS will walk up to Primavera. Until now, we've only considered the lifestyles of our Chinese brethren. But we'll change that way of thinking. We'll also consider the lifestyles of Primavera's Japanese countrymen. I swear that Chinatown will cooperate even more, so that the Japanese of 2023 can maintain a rich lifestyle.
Thank you very much. We at Primavera also want to work hard to contribute to the lives of the Chinese.
Oh, is that so? Madame Rose, you truly are magnificent! I can't fucking sing in this voice. It'll fucking tear my throat out more than it is right now. If you can show that you're walking alongside us in a visible way, you'll win over the Council of Elders in no time.
In what sort of visible way?
By showing your attitude that you're willing to resolve this problem with respect for us.
Attitude?
You're being a bit roundabout. Let's have some details.
You do love being direct, Richard-san.
This strange farce has continued so long that even Madame Rose is flustered. Let's get to the point. It sounds like the GDS wants either war or submission. What do you want us to do for the latter case?
You really do stick your knife straight to the core. If you want a bit more roundabout, you'll never be able to marry a girl. Girls just hate it when you go straight to the point with no foreplay. Oh, if you're already married, my apologies.
No, I'd like to ask the same question. Wang-san, I realize that you're aiming for either war or submission. However, neither of us wishes for war. Is there anything I'm misunderstanding?
You are correct. This is the same as the old tribute. If you display your respect, we will give you an even more in return. China and Japan have gotten along very well that way for years, haven't they?
And what is this respect to which you refer?
Little May, if you will. I'd rather it not come from my lips.
You've got guts saying that out loud. Meiju gave a short laugh.
Understood. Then I shall name the Council of Elders' requests.
There are two. First, a Primavera will bring its unjustly inflated labor wages back to the level they were at before last year. That's the main cause for all the trouble in Chinatown. We would like that fixed immediately.
And the second?
Second, we want you to immediately transfer 30% of City 23 Special Offers windows to us without compensation as a sign of friendship.
Not even worth considering.
Sneering Richard made a dramatic gesture like Wang. Richard was agitated, even though he was usually calm and composed, and had started reacting to this provocation. At the sight of Richard's behavior, Wang's expression grew even more flippant.
Richard-kun, please calm down. There's no need to let them sweep you into their pace.
Richard took a sip of water to cool his burning body. Rose was starting to catch on. This was probably the technique Wang used to negotiate. Butter him up and then... He toyed with his opponent, making them lose the ability to judge rationally and moving the discussion in a direction favorable to him. This is completely different from Meiju, who, though he was clever and ruthless, would face his opponents head on. They mustn't step into the other side's ring. The gentleness disappeared from Rose's face.
It took a huge amount of money to buy the special offers windows. All of that was obtained thanks to the suffering our countrymen bore. We cannot hand it over for free.
After all, if we dealt with each other using money, the Japanese would just start calling it trade again, right? If this was trade we were talking about, China wouldn't ever have given Japan so much in gifts. After all, we had absolutely no interest in gifts of rubbish given by a country of Eastern barbarians.
In that case, you must have no interest in the rubbish we call the City 23 Special Offers windows, yes?
She got you there.
Ah, you got me, you got me. Whose side are you even on, Meiju?
I'm on nobody's side.
Okay, I'm good. This time around, we want a tribute with respect.
We aren't averse to showing our respect. Still, handing over the special offers windows without compensation? Even if I allow it, my countrymen will not. Also, you've used the old Chinese system of tribute as an analogy, but if that's really the case, then even if we did hand over the special offers windows, what gift would you give us in return?
We promise that the comfortable lives of the city folk will continue unabated.
That's no different from a simple threat.
Hold on there, time out. Don't stare at me with such a scary look on your face. Oh, I'm just a messenger. I'd rather you didn't glare at me like that.
As Rose's tone grew harder, Wang suddenly started joking around to smooth things over. Push forward when they pull back when they push forward. Surely this is Wang's technique of fighting at a fixed distance. Without letting her guard down the slightest, Rose quietly looked into Wang's eyes. There it is. He acts like he's joking around, but his eyes aren't laughing in the slightest.
The last war, on the surface at least, ended with a human ceasefire at the consideration for the honor of the Japanese people because of the Great Disaster. But let me be blunt. Japan lost the war, yes. If you feel differently, shall we start it up again right now? Here in Tokyo. You Japanese lost the war. Japan's the only place in the world that worms its way out by calling it a ceasefire. The newspapers around the world announce that Japan lost the war.
I have no objections on that point. Japan was defeated in the war and is being governed by occupying forces. That's a fact.
Do you really understand? Do you understand what it means to lose a war?
From ancient times till the mid-20th century, war was, at its essence, nothing more than kill or be killed. In exchange for not killing them, you stole everything from defeated nations. You formed unequal treaties, turned countries into colonies, and treated the people like livestock. That was common sense in the kill or be killed world of war. People living in the 21st century? Probably want to believe that the world's more intellectual than that. However, it mustn't be forgotten that no World Human Rights Declaration, stating that humanity had abandoned colonialism, was made into a short half-century ago. Furthermore, it isn't true that all the world's countries supported the 1960 Declaration on the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples. It's probably worth remembering that several major Allied countries who saved the world from the evil Axis did not vote in favor for this resolution.
Japan did it too, didn't they? Japanization and so on. If that's one of the rights of the victor state, then it should have been fine for us to do it to Japan too, yes. We could have changed all aspects of your lifestyles to be Chinese. We could have made Chinese the only official language, punishing all those who talked in Japanese. We could have forced you to worship the same things we did. But we didn't do all that. Do you know why?
I don't.
Because of love. Brotherly love for fellow bearers of a culture that extends back to the Yellow River civilization. If we didn't give the Japanese culture, they would still be primitives living in pits. However, our ancestors gave you culture and made it so that you could live a cultural lifestyle as humans. Culturally, we are like a father and big brother to you. That is something we take pride in. And so, we decided to forgive our small little brother with love during his rebellious stage. Otherwise, why on earth would we propose an unconditional ceasefire? Why didn't the Chinese military take advantage of the disaster and carry out plans for a landing on the Japanese mainland? Because of love! What could have caused this but love? You received our love free of charge without even thanking us. You ought to stop and think about how much of your current lives are supported by our love and mercy.
Honored brother, if you threaten them so much, even the Japanese will be stuck cowering in fear.
Oh, was I threatening them? Not like I ever meant to. Nah, sorry for scattering you.
Wong stuck out his tongue and laughed. Even though his face was playful, his eyes still weren't smiling.
So about that, what'll you do? These conditions of respect that GDS is offering, will you accept them or not?
I cannot give you an immediate answer.
I guess you do need time after all. In that case, shall we call it a day for now?
At that exact moment, the hour and minute hands of the clocks reached their peak, and the countless clocks began their magnificent jumbled chorus.
I believe there is nothing more valuable and precious than my own time. So that'll be my going away gift to you for tonight's meal. For a time, I would like you to consider how much benevolence lies behind your current lifestyles. If you do, I'm sure that feelings of gratitude will naturally rise inside you. If those feelings turn to respect, then I think we can get along.
Have you no shame?
As Richard was about to lash back, Rose quickly stopped him.
And that's the GDS's position, is it?
Yep.
In that case, once we've assembled our position over the next few days, we'll give you our answer.
Oh, sure got it. I'll be waiting.
Rose and Richard rose from their seats.
Regardless of what your answer is, everything that occurs as a result is your responsibility. I bear no responsibility. Please don't forget that, okay?
Of course. I always bear all the responsibility when I make my decisions. That's unlike people like you who can't take responsibility for anything.
Oh, so you can talk pretty tough. Pretty cool.
Let's go, Richard Kuhn. Good job hanging in there.
I was 3 seconds away from strangling that little man.
I know.
Truly unpleasant.
The two of them left at a swift pace. Wong watched them go, smiling, and as soon as their backs were out of sight, his expression changed. It returned to the cold grin of a calculating man. Oh, I don't doubt that. I'm gonna end it there. Oh, okay, that was an interesting little interaction there. Oh, Wong, you said, ooh. I will say though, Rose, good on you for at least biting back at that last moment there. I'll give you that. That was good. But unfortunately, Wong's voice is agonizing if you do it for a long while, but the thing is, I have so much fun that I'm not even going to change that.
Because to be fair, I have a lot of fun doing the voice like this. I don't know why, but I have a lot of fun doing it.
But anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and if you all like this, be sure to let me know. And I can't wait to record more of this, so thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.